Happy Tuesday, everybody. I was going to say Monday. It feels like a Monday today.
It does feel like a Monday.
Because we had Memorial Day weekend. Today is, in fact, Tuesday. Welcome in, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ben Derry, along with meteorologist Jamie Cagle and meteorologist Courtney Aiken. Welcome to the Weather Wheel. This is the weather portion of the show where we get to talk about whatever we want, and that's basically going to be weather-related for the next 15 minutes.
Might get a little bit off the rails, but the goal is that you get your forecast and then a little bit something extra. We get to nerd out a little bit.
Yeah, might really get off the rails. I mean,
who knows?
Who knows?
We're already off the rails already. So let's just, what people came here for, let's talk a little weather. Let's go ahead and take graphics full and we'll do a quick shorty weather for you. We did have some thunderstorms develop across western and southwestern Minnesota earlier today. This here was a time-lapse loop that showed those storms having a difficult time getting organized and pushing into the Twin Cities area. You can see the storm clouds are forming, a little rain falling out of those clouds, but for the most part, most of these have kind of fizzled over the last, say, 3 hours or so. And you can see this is a 3-hour loop. You can see the thunderstorms were rocking pretty good and then basically fell apart. So what's happening is in the atmosphere, we do have some energy around, but we don't have the ingredients necessary to keep these thunderstorms rolling. So they basically ran out of moisture. They ran out of fuel, I should say. They basically formed a pulse type of environment and then collapsed on themselves as nothing was able to keep those thunderstorms going. Zooming in closer, you can see, again, most of that just evaporated into thin air, basically. Pretty literally, I would say. No thunderstorms right now. A lot of residual cloud cover, though, which is going to play a part in our forecast. We were initially forecasting 90 for a forecast high today, which is a lot warmer than average, we'll say that. I think our first 90 comes sometime during the first or second week of June, so a little earlier than average, but regardless, we might stay just shy of that considering how cloudy it is right now. Upper 80s, that's a pretty sure bet, however, and we do expect redeveloping storms later today. In fact, there is a marginal risk for severe weather across the region as well. We could see some hailers, mainly isolated in nature, but because we have that heat building up today, these storms are going to feed off of that energy, and again, a chance for some isolated severe storms this evening. These are the forecast lows as we head into tonight. We stay relatively warm. Most of us will be well into the 60s. I believe we were at 70 earlier this morning. That was our low temperature to start off the day. So a little cooler than that, but still a warm start. This is Wednesday's forecast, just as warm as what we're seeing today. There is another isolated chance for thunderstorms later Wednesday afternoon, but thinking a lesser chance for rain than what we're dealing with today. Again, upper 80s to lower 90s. The exception is up along the shore of Lake Superior. Look at that, 60s for temperatures. So it's getting to be that time of year where Lake Superior likes to develop its own weather. So that onshore flow will be a big factor up there. Here's your 7-day forecast. Temperatures will stay reasonably warm through the rest of the week. And once we get beyond today, it's pretty much dry weather from Wednesday through the upcoming weekend. June starts on Monday. That's hard to believe. And other than a subtle cooling trend, we're going to stay about 5 to 10 degrees warmer than average through your forecast and mostly sunny conditions. So hopefully we get at least a little bit of rain over the next 24 hours because once we get into Wednesday, that dry streak of weather will last probably through the first few days of June. And it might be 7, even 10 days before we see any measurable rainfall. How about that?
It's rather remarkable how much the first half of May and the second half of May are almost like a 180. We had just that, not constant, but we had a lot of cool temperatures. I remember we were given the forecast like about mid-May, we should see these things start to turn around. And it has certainly turned around. Really, and now we're talking about a stretch of 80s with some 90s mixed in as well. So, yeah, just almost complete opposites.
Kind of like what the Twins how they've been playing this year. It's been very streaky.
Very streaky. There you go. Very streaky indeed.
What do you think, Courtney, about the start of May and how it's evolving?
I'm on board with this forecast right now because I think it's fun to have some storms, especially when they're marginally severe. You don't have to get into the mode of being a little bit concerned. You don't have to lock in all too much. You're still paying attention, but I think it's fun to see the active weather. And then with that, of course, the warmer temperatures. The pool at my apartment complex finally opened up, and seeing this transition in Minnesota for the first time from the winter to the spring and now essentially summer. I mean, meteorological summer starts next Monday, next Monday.
Which is real summer, by the way.
Real summer, and that date is also the start of Atlantic hurricane season. So, Anyway, it's been so interesting to see. It's like people come out of the woodwork when it gets warmer. Like these people, I was watching them from my window, not in a creepy way, but like I was I was really just like fascinated by the way that people spent all day at the pool. They were there from like 10 a.m. until 9 p.m.
Sure.
Like once it gets warm, people just soak it all in. And now I can see why getting here in January. So I think it's a good week because you can still get your outdoor activities in. It's going to be warm enough for it. And we do have the chance to see some fun storms, some beneficial rainfall, but it's only for a couple days and then we're dry. So I'm on board for it. I'm here for
Everyone's coming out of their hibernation.
Yes.
Quite literally. You start to see your neighbors appear. Dogs are being walked.
Nice to meet
You're
you.
like, hey, where have you been? Oh, that's right. You were
Literally
tucked
been
away
next door.
all winter long.
Literally been next door for
Yeah.
the last 6 months.
Yeah.
Finally heading outside. So it is nice to see. And we had Memorial Day weekend this last weekend. A lot of folks were taking advantage of the weather to be outside on a lake. Those lakes are still very cold right now. We went out on Green Lake just outside of Chisago City, and only the youngest kids were brave enough to go jump in the water. That water, I swear it was like 55 degrees, something like that. I mean, it took your breath away. No adults were smart enough to jump in.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think most lakes around the cities are probably somewhere still in the 60s for those water temps. That didn't stop. That didn't stop my first mate yesterday. She jumped in the water and spent some time in there. But when
for
you're
her.
a water baby, that's what you'll do.
I guess.
I guess I knew better. I was like, hey, you know what? Hypothermia doesn't sound really appealing right now.
Not really, no.
So I'll give it some time.
But you give it like, a week of this kind of warmth.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, where it's steadily in the 80s. And you had mentioned it, how like we just flipped. Before this weekend, there was only a handful of days where we hit 80 degrees all season long. So, we hit 80, but it was only in spurts. It was very streaky, we'll say. But now it's like all of a sudden the blowtorch is on and it's 80 degrees or warmer for like 15 days in a row, which is pretty remarkable.
Be interesting to see where those water temperatures end up. As we get to the first day of June, take a look at those water temperatures, see if how much they've climbed.
At what point does it start to get more comfortable? Like at what point would you
August.
guys jump in August?
I can remember as a kid going to the cabin, and granted, this is up just north of Mille Lacs, so you're a little further north, but nonetheless, May and June at the cabin, you're like, you'd ease your way into the lake.
Yeah.
And I'd say probably past July 4th, as you're kind of closing out July into August, it's just running right into the water.
Okay.
It's not Gulf of Mexico temperatures. I remember covering
not
that.
bath water.
It's not bath water, but it's not as much of a shock to the system as you're getting in the water. Yeah, late
Sure.
July, most of August.
I look forward to the thermocline days where the top like 2 feet of the water is like bath water.
Oh, yeah.
Right underneath that, it gets cold in a hurry,
Yeah.
and that stays like that until you get a windy day to kind mix things up a little
Yep.
bit.
You'll be in the water and boy, your toes are freezing cold, but up here you're like, it's not too bad.
That sounds nice.
It's not too bad. So this is going to be Courtney's first summer here. Things have finally greened up, which happy for you, because when you first arrived here, it was like the middle of January, and we're wondering.
That's a brutal time to move to
Yeah.
Minnesota.
For
Everybody
anybody.
kept on asking me like, how are you doing? And I'm like, please don't ask me that. So this is, I mean, to me, it's just crazy how quickly it happened, because I think other parts of the country, they're like pouring all kinds of stuff on their front lawn just to make it grow, make it green, and here it just happens.
Yeah.
And this past Sunday morning show, I interviewed an allergist because I'm like, we gotta talk. Like this is intense. And she was explaining to me how when the ice initially melts and we start finally seeing the pavement again, finally seeing your lawn again, that's prime time for mold. Right now we're in pollen, and then from there we're gonna go to grass, and that's gonna be the thing pretty much all summer long. So I'm like, oh great, but it is it is very nice, and I'm looking forward to the summer for sure.
And then it'll be what is it? What's the last one? The last weed of the season. I can't.
Not ragweed.
Yeah, ragweed.
Is it
That
ragweed?
sounds right
Yeah,
for fall,
ragweed.
right? I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
that'll hit like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
Great.
Can't wait.
I can't wait.
Well, when everyone's cutting their grass and whatnot, that's certainly not going to help things. And,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if there's anything about being in Minnesota, it's you look forward to the next thing, right?
That's so
you
true.
look forward to the next season because
Yeah.
next year is going to be better, especially when it comes to our sports franchises.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't make
Yep.
it so we didn't
Nah,
we didn't
there's
do
always
so
next
great,
year.
but there's always next year. This spring it wasn't so great, but wait till summer. Hey, the summer it's really hot, dry, but
Wait
just
till
wait
fall.
until fall, and then by the time you get into the end of August, maybe early September, you're like, hey, I wouldn't mind seeing some snow.
That's a point where everybody's like digging their heels in, like, wait, not yet,
Just hold
not
on,
yet.
hold on just a little bit.
You look at like either the fishing opener, Memorial Day, like, all right, summer's here. You get to the 4th of July, and then you're like, how much longer till the state fair? You get to the state fair, and you're enjoying it, and then you go, oh no, like summer's over. But fall around here is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Fall is spectacular.
Well, what was funny is Jason Hackett this morning was the first one to complain about it being too hot.
Oh, well, you should have seen Bobby Jensen on Saturday.
Was he this? What was he like?
I'm talking through the 7-day, and he's right next to me going, and a couple times he just goes, no.
I can remember doing the forecast last couple of days and just saying, folks, we're not going to have time to acclimate. We're going to
Yeah,
come out of the
that's a
60s
great
and 70s,
point.
and we're going to shoot right up to the upper 80s. And yeah, I think a lot of folks probably walked outside and said, whoa.
This is a lot.
There wasn't much acclimation time there. So yeah, this is kind of coming at you pretty fast.
Yeah, and again, our
I think
first,
that's a good point, yeah.
Our first 90 comes, I mean, I think I looked at the average date is like June 9th or something like that. That's the average first
Yeah.
90. So I think 2 years ago, it took until after the 4th of July to see our first 90. So it can swing either way. And not saying we're going to hit 90 today just because it's really cloudy.
cloudy.
Yeah,
We'll
clouds.
see if we can get warm enough. But regardless, it's unusually warm the next couple of days before we see more seasonal temperatures. But still, like a streak of 10 days in a row, 80 or warmer, when it's
Yeah.
been kind of a cool and damp start to spring, it's nice to see.
Yeah.
I think, unless your name is Bobby Jensen, of course.
Unless your name is Bobby Jensen.
There was
Sorry,
quite a
Bobby.
delay there on that spring.
Yeah.
And of all the seasons, that might be the one where people probably get the most agitated.
Like, let's get
It's like,
things
let's
going.
go, let's go, let's go.
Yep.
We got through March, like, okay, April's here. And we went through April, like, and you and I always have this conversation. Which month do we dislike the most, March
Oh,
or April?
yes.
And I think this year we probably agreed. Both of them, they were just,
Yeah. I have pictures of my kids playing in a snowstorm. It was like mid-March.
Yeah.
And they were
Wow.
outside and playing. And I mean, you got to hand it to the kids. They'll just take whatever Mother Nature gives it to them and they'll make lemonade.
Yeah.
So
Jumping in the cold water, playing in the snow.
they don't
like,
care.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't care. It's
They're very adaptable.
They just like being outside,
Yeah.
which is handy to have. Hey, let's talk a little bit more weather forecast because today is going to be quite warm. Yesterday, Memorial Day, was quite warm as well. We hit 86 degrees for a high temperature. You can see your 7-day forecast looks like this. Near 90 today, depending on how much sunshine we see this afternoon. We're seeing some dissipating showers this morning. We're going to see redeveloping stuff later this afternoon. It's kind of hit and miss. There are some severe storms possible just given how warm it is outside. And we have this lingering frontal boundary, which these storms are going to fire off of. But otherwise, hail is the biggest threat later today. Spotty afternoon and evening storms on Wednesday. Doesn't look like a huge deal for us. It looks like we'll stay mainly dry during the day on Wednesday and then just slightly cooler heading into the tail end of the week. We're going to see temperatures in the low to mid 80s Thursday, Friday, and through the upcoming weekend, and a mostly sunny stretch as well. And what's interesting, guys, is our weather over the next few days primarily influenced by this big high pressure system, which is currently over Hudson Bay.
Yeah.
So you got this surface high that's there that's slowly sagging southward, bringing with it that drier, slightly cooler air. But I mean, 90 today, tomorrow, and then lower 80s. Is that going to feel like a cool down?
yeah.
Or
I
is it
think
too early in the season for that?
looking at that weekend forecast, we had low 80s, lots of sun for the weekend. I think that looks absolutely spectacular. and if
I
you drop
agree.
the humidity just a little bit, it may go down as probably one of the best weekends. It could be
Whoa.
one of the best weekends for the
You heard it here.
spring, summer.
Best weather ever.
Could be best weather
It
ever.
could be like 7 days in a row of the best weather ever.
It should be fantastic.
Looking forward to it. Well, thanks for joining us for some nonstop nonsense. Stay tuned. We'll have more weather and more news after this.